when I write music and when I am creative, I am being myself. So keeping that presence real on social media and trying to be myself as much as possible helps me channel that creative energy in a better way.
Welcome to Innovated podcast series sponsored by Innovator Solutions Limited. I'm your host, Dr. Carl Phillips. As part of this third podcast episode in this first series, I'm talking today to Luke Davis, an award-winning music producer and composer. We will be following on from my first two episodes and looking to further lift the lid on innovation. This podcast episode is all about putting the parts of innovation back together again and identifying the drivers that are important to future generations. Answering the question, why is it so difficult to understand the properties of the whole when the problem space is easily analysed in parts? So welcome, Luke. How are you today?
Good, thank you, Carl.
The current generation live in a far more complex, multi-dimensional world than ever before, with so many different possibilities and so much knowledge at hand. Yet how do they put it all together and make sense of it? Music and the creative arts are often at the forefront of showcasing technology that eventually gets developed. Why do you think this is the case, Luke? And do you have any insights into this?
People who write films or who have all these really creative and innovative ideas, they put them in film because they don't feel like it can be part of the real world because it's fiction. They're writing fiction. They're trying to put interesting stories, and they're not scientific people to sort of make it a reality in the real world. Because technology has sort of come so far, there are really clever scientists who are also innovative, but then take the ideas from the films and then turn them into reality because the technology exists. When I'm composing film music, I have basically access to an entire orchestra on my computer because that's what technology has allowed me to do now. You can get all these sample libraries of orchestras and you can manipulate them and you can compose things as if you're conducting an entire orchestra to play exactly what you want. And I can literally just have that all on my computer. That's how far technology's come. So the important thing is, though, you can have all of these tools, but there's not really at the moment that many places that give you the knowledge of how to use them. You can have all of these amazing softwares, but there aren't that many resources out there to properly teach you how to creatively use the tools. They might teach you how to use them in a specific way. Maybe it's not that creative. I think it's a priority for my generation that even though we have these tools, we have more resources of how to use them and how to use them creatively in a way that hasn't been seen before. So we can very easily be creative using the old orchestral tools that we've heard in film music and stuff in the past. But then we can also combine them with modern techniques and modern synthesis, which is already accessible on the computer, to give more sounds that are more creative and more innovative that haven't been heard before.
Yes, and I think that's a very interesting point you bring about the new music, because when I see the new outputs on the web at the moment, it's gone way beyond the orchestra that kind of I traditionally know. And the stuff that your generation is doing at the moment is actually throwing it up in the air and doing something totally different with it.
Yeah, you can still have really effective like orchestral scores, but then you can take the orchestra and you can manipulate it, you can stretch it out, you can pitch it, you can do whatever you want with it and make really like interesting textures and sounds that you haven't heard before, whilst combining that, with synths and everything. And you basically take all the old techniques, spin it around and do whatever you want with it to create really interesting sounds, which gives you a lot more creativity, especially with film, for it to work really well with the visuals that you see. You're not then just restricted to the instruments as how they were built to be played, but how they are manipulated as well.
And I'm assuming you must play a lot of these tools a lot in the background, because you don't just create this magic. You are kind of playing with it and finding out where the boundaries are, I would imagine, as well, in your spare time.
Yeah, it takes a lot of fiddling around to get used to learning the tools and everything in terms of how the orchestra is meant to be played. For example, if I wanted to play a violin in my song, you'd need to play it on a keyboard. But obviously, when you're playing a violin in real life, you have to bow it and you have to do all these techniques. So you need to sort of learn how to do that, to put that in a song effectively. But then you need to also learn how to break the tools and how to make sounds that you've not heard before, because you can't do them with real instruments. So it's a lot of practice of using the instruments correctly, but also using them incorrectly, metaphorically speaking, to get interesting sounds. I like using traditional orchestra stuff in my tracks and in my pieces, but I also really like taking natural elements and then distorting them almost and turning them into stuff that isn't what you'd conventionally hear. So mixing it with synthesis, creating something brand new, because I have a passion for creating something new that you haven't heard before. And every time you do it, the process might be similar, but it's not an exact science. So every time you edit something, every time you take something and then change it, like the process is similar, but you'll come out with different results every time because it's not an exact science. So every single sound you make is brand new and has never been heard before.
What you just described, it's almost like a chef. The best kind of new recipes are often mistakes from previous ones. And it sounds like you're doing exactly the same, but just in a different kind of medium or in a different form.
Yeah, well, given enough time, you'll know what combinations work. In the same way as a chef, you just take different bits and then you have your own creative liberties. If you know sort of the basics and have a creative mind, you can come up with anything, really.
You can. Have you got any friends that you talk to and share this experience with as well? Or is it a sole individual hobby?
I have a lot of friends who I went to uni with who were on the same music tech course as me, but we all branched off into different areas, really. One of my friends did film music. One of my friends does music for businesses. We all sort of learnt the same skill sets on the same course at university, but we all branched out into different things, so we all have different perspective on things.
Oh, that's good.
Which is very important, I think, because when we are sharing our work with each other, we hear things in different ways and we get new perspective on things, which allows us to be more creative because we wouldn't have thought of that otherwise.
Yes.
I also stream on Twitch and I stream doing some music making on there. And it's really fun just being like fully creative, writing music without a specific reason or without a brief is very liberating and creative because it's just making music for myself and making music for fun. And then I can bounce off the Twitch chat, the viewers who watch me, who also suggest sort of like ideas, and then we can just write fun songs together. So
where does the passion come from? What drives you to do this? Because it sounds like you love doing it and it's just something that you were kind of almost destined to do. So where does the passion come from?
I've always just liked creating something from scratch, from absolutely nothing, and then taking a step back and thinking that I'm proud of it. And I've always loved writing music from a young age, but especially like in the last couple of months or year, especially during COVID times when we're all stuck inside.
Yes.
It's nice to be able to express myself because we're not being able to go outside and see people as much. So it's just nice to be able to have my thing that I can do and just, I put a lot of emotion into my music, just be creative and let go of a lot of things, I guess.
So that brings me on to my second question. In this virtual world that we now operate more than ever, where you can have wild online experiences and you can almost try anything, how do you keep your life real, original and authentic?
I think for me, in order to be authentic online and in the real world, I've learned from my mistakes of not being authentic online. When I was younger, I grew up with Facebook and I grew up with Instagram, and we were all learning the rules of social media together, and all of my friends were posting everything that ever happened online all the time. And I never really wanted to do that. I saw it and I thought, oh, to fit in, maybe I probably should. So I tried it and I became obsessed where if my post didn't get a certain amount of likes as another post, I must have done something wrong because I wasn't following the rules of the internet right. And it was just unhealthy. So I took a step back. I posted what I wanted to post on the internet. And I know it sounds pretty simple, but it's supposed to be social media. You're supposed to be social on there with friends and post things that you want to post and share things. I post what I want to now of my life, and it's a lot more free and liberating. And Twitch is also a social media. And when I stream on there, I find it's very important to just be myself. rather than playing a character online or anything. It's nice to hang out with people and chat and just be myself. And again, it's a social thing to do during COVID times, just to talk to people and be real. Yeah, I think for me, when I write music and when I am creative, I am being myself. So keeping that presence real on social media and trying to be myself as much as possible helps me channel that creative energy in a better way.
I think that's a message to a lot of people in terms of keeping it real and being authentic, because too often we live in these virtual worlds where we could be any character we want to. And I think sometimes we take that across into the real world, and it's not a good thing. And I think, like you said, you can really find meaning in being who you are and what you are. And that's a really good thing to do for not just yourself, but for your kind of mental, physical, and overall well-being, I think.
I feel a lot more happier in myself now when I am being real and myself than when I was trying to almost fit in on social media.
Yeah, there's good things and bad things about social media. When I was a child, we didn't have mobile phones and things like that. And I tell my kids, I lived in a world without mobile phones. And they said, Dad, how did you get on? And they think that there was something missing in my life because I didn't have a mobile phone, which is really strange. So tell me, as a kind of Generation Z person, I think that you're called Zoomers now, I think, what would you like to see innovation helping to develop, coming together to help us collectively and help yourself, for example?
I think our generation is really worried about the future of the planet. And I guess it's more our future because we're spending the rest of our lives in it. We got to live into it and make sure that it's looked after and is a good place and a better place. So some new innovation towards still things like recycling, but just being able to reuse or recycle everything would be great. Because the amount of packaging still nowadays that we're throwing away, we're living in 2021, we should be recycling everything, really.
Yes.
Our generation is a lot more aware of the things that are happening for the longevity of our planet. This is where social media can be positive. We can all have a voice on social media and we can all speak out and raise more awareness. We can debate and we can educate each other.
Going back to the recycling, I recently ordered some milk in the old milk bottles with the kind of foil tops. And I gave one to my eldest child to open. And he said, Dad, how do I open it? He had the can opener in one hand and the knife in the other. I said, absolutely no way. You just use your thumb to open the milk. I think there's a lot of education that our generation probably needs to pass down to you, and a lot that your generation needs to pass back to us.
So every generation has something new to learn.
Definitely. I'd like to go back to the social media. We've mentioned it a few times. You're the first social generation to have grown up with access to the internet and portable digital technology from a really young age. So what are the negative aspects of innovation that you're seeing and experiencing, and how do you deal with them?
I guess one of the main negative points of social media is the fact that people post the top 1% of what their life is a lot of the time. People used to post things every day. Like when I was growing up with social media, they used to post everything that was new and it was like a new toy and you just wanted to share everything. But now the most liked posts, which is what people crave on social media, they crave likes, are the most liked posts of the top 1% of everyone's life. So if you're just scrolling through social media and you see all these amazing things are happening, naturally you're probably going to compare it to your own life and think, well, all these amazing things are happening, but I'm not doing all these amazing things all the time. And I just think constantly seeing perfection on social media is really damaging a lot of the time for mental health, because you see all these amazing things and they're not happening all the time.
Mm.
And you just compare them to your own life and feel bad about yourselves a lot of the time. At least that's what I think I see from a lot of all the generation I'm a part of. That's what I see a lot. And then I guess the other thing as well is, well, we don't tend to interact socially in the real world as much as we used to, because technology has come that far to the point in which if you want to go food shopping, you don't even need to leave the house anymore. You can press a button on your phone and it's less social interaction and it just delivers to you.
Yes.
Maybe people have more social anxiety now because they don't go outside as much, because they're just living online, and they are being very, very social online, which is still a good thing. They are still being social. They're missing out on the actual real world experience of meeting people a lot of the time.
So do you go cold turkey sometimes and put your phone down, turn it off, and try and go a day without using IT at all. Have you ever tried that?
I haven't tried it. I think I'd be very, very bad at it. I don't think I'd be able to do it. I don't think I'd be able to have one day without my phone, honestly.
Really?
I use it so much for so many things.
Yes.
I don't spend that much time on social media. Like, I browse it occasionally. I guess for me, it's difficult because I'm a part of lots of online communities being on Twitch, whether it's I'm hanging out with my own Twitch community or other people's Twitch communities. I'm constantly in group chat type situations like servers on Discord, and I'm always active on there. And it's going to be very difficult to miss a day, because if I miss a day, I've missed so much, because so much happens very quickly all the time. If I do ever do it, I'll be thinking about it all day. There's no way I wouldn't be. The groups that I am part of and the communities I am part of are great because it keeps me interacting with them. And a lot of the time, because I am known in these communities as the music creator, a lot of ideas they have and a lot of suggestions or like silly jokes or memes that they just share with me, they're like, hey, can you make a remix of this? Or hey, can you do all that stuff? And it just keeps me creative and thinking of that sort of thing the whole time.
I believe that you've worked your way into the gaming/music industry, and you've actually created a track that's gone viral. Can you tell me a bit about that?
In lockdown, I thought I'm going to start making YouTube remix videos where I just take random things and then turn them into a song and make a remix of it. On Netflix, a suggestion came up of a film called Shark Boy and Lava Girl, which is a film that came out in like 2004. It's famously on IMDb one of the worst films of all time. And I loved it as a child, and I thought, right, I'm going to watch this again. And there's a song in the middle of that film where Taylor Lautner does a little break dance and sings a song. And I thought, this would be fun to remix. And I just didn't think of anything of it. I took like an hour or two to just make a quick remix, and then I put it on YouTube.
Yes.
And then I think the stars aligned, really. YouTube has a very specific algorithm where it just pushes random videos. And I think Shark Boy and Lava Girl has a sequel coming out later on in the year. So my video just took off. It's now currently sitting on about 3.6 million views.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun, very unexpected.
Is there a recipe that you could follow to do it again, do you think? Or do you think it was just a stars align?
Oh, no. Believe me, I've tried. There's no understanding that algorithm. The other day, a video got pushed to me that didn't have a title and the channel didn't have a name. It was a completely unsearchable video on YouTube, but it was getting pushed to everyone by the YouTube algorithm. Had no title, had no name, and it had about 2 million views, and it was only up for a week.
Wow.
So I don't even know how that happens. The algorithm does what it wants, I think.
That's amazing. That kind of level of fame and attention, what's it taught you?
It's taught me comment sections on any form of social media, just stay away from them. It's just full of absolutely random things that people just, the first thing that it comes into their head, they're just going to type and they're going to send it on a comment. And it has made me realize, I think the more views a video's got, the less people are going to be afraid of commenting anything, because they probably think that their one comment is just going to get lost in a sea of comments, rather than if there's a video on YouTube with not many views, and if you're going to comment, you know that everyone's going to see it because it's going to be the only comment that comes up. So I think people are a lot less afraid to just say random hurtful things on videos with a lot of views, because they think it's just going to get buried and they think there's not going to be accountability for it or anything.
Yes, that's a good point. And as a person who works in the gaming industry and is contributing to its future development, where do you think the gaming industry is going?
So at the moment, the industry is focusing quite a lot on VR games and virtual reality and things like that. But it's very hard to tell at the moment if that's going to be like the standard thing in 10 years' time, or if that's just going to be like 3D and just be gimmicky and die out. Because I know in things like Back to the Future and old films, like virtual reality, something that's been hyped for years and years and years, and now it's sort of starting to happen. But if it is standard in 10 years, I think it'd be really cool, because the gaming capabilities and the specs of all the games nowadays are crazy. Like, a lot of the things are photorealistic, and it's only going to get like better to the point in which we're not going to be able to tell what's a screenshot from a game and what's an actual picture. At the same time, there's a lot of downsides where the games are getting longer. The average Mario game lasted, like 5 minutes? And now the new story modes of certain games are over 100 hours long. and they're getting more immersive and they're more addictive. And it's going to get to the point in where like virtual reality seems more realistic. People aren't going to want to live in the real world because the world that's fantasy and so long and so much content will be a lot more fun because it's fantasy and it caters to what people want.
Yes. And I think there's an element of the game manufacturers making it more addictive as well.
It sells and
it
makes
does
them more money. And music in games is really important. The music absolutely carries the game so much and really has such a big, profound effect on mood and how the storytelling affects the player, really.
So you're actually fooling around with their emotions, really. I think I've heard this in films. If you watch a film without any music, it's a totally different experience from when the music is added.
Yeah, totally. I mean, one of my lecturers at uni said that sound makes 60% of a film. Music's a way of manipulating state and emotion. The music literally tells the audience what to feel before they see something on screen a lot of the time. So it really carries narrative a lot and it taps into people's emotions.
Going back, you mentioned Back to the Future film, where they showed video phones, hoverboards, holograms, and self-laced shoes. What would you like developed or enhanced for the benefit of future generations?
Speaking of Back to the Future, I still want that machine where it makes you a perfect Pizza Hut pizza in 2 seconds. That's still high on my priority list, I think.
Don't you think there's something missing by not doing the cooking process, by just having it immediately there for you?
Our generation is very used to just getting things instantly on the spot straight away.
So my next question is about the pandemic and social media again, putting kind of more and more pressure on people, especially young people, than ever before. What do you think we need to do to help avert the potential looming mental health crisis that's now approaching us?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to the point of where social media is such a good thing and we need to be talking, because in COVID times and everything, the worst thing you can do is not talk to anyone, stop being social and shut yourself in. We are consciously aware that connectivity is so important. We just need to maintain being social, spend time on social media, but spend it socially rather than trying to get attention or trying to get likes or reading the headline of an article and thinking it's true and taking everything at first impression and first glance, and spending the time on social media wisely, but also distancing yourself from social media at times, not getting too into it, doing other things, listen to music. When the country opened up, everyone just goes straight to nightclubs and goes to do all these things that they've missed. So do all the social things that you can. It tells a lot about us that the first thing that we do when we are allowed to open up again is go to music and do all these social things. Make the most of what you've got, really. Take every opportunity you can to do all these leisure activities. Go out your way to connect with all your friends by dancing and singing songs and music.
I think you're right there, because things that we've taken for granted, I think we've realized the true value of them when they were taken away from us.
I really, really missed going out and seeing live artists and live music and stuff. And I'm very, very excited to do that again when things open up properly, when we can do it safely.
Going back to innovation, what's the funniest or craziest moment you've come across with respect to your experience of innovation or music?
Yeah, so again, that would be the YouTube video that sort of blew up, and just seeing the reaction to it and getting ads on my videos and getting several thousand subscribers in a short amount of time. And then I guess the problem with that, though, is that then there's sort of social pressure for all those people for me to come up with. All of a sudden, it went from something that I did for fun as a video for people expecting me to regularly put content of the same thing, because, again, it's fitting into the structure of YouTube, because from an outsider, they expect every video on there to be like a full-time content creator on there putting stuff out, which of course I wasn't. I was just doing it for fun. So it was just learning to deal with all of that, really.
With that in mind, do you think that your generation has the power, energy, and ideas to transform the world?
Oh, yeah, totally. Our generation is very open-minded and accepting of everyone. And we're very vocal on things that we really believe in on social media. And we always band together and we get things trending for things that we believe in. And we engage in dialogue with people who have the same views as us, have different views from us. We're always in contact and always learning from each other. And everything is so open on the internet that as future generations grow up and see all of this online, because I might have grown up with the internet and how it started to develop, but the future generations are going to grow up and see all of this open-mindedness and acceptance online, and the world's only going to be a more accepting place in the future because of it.
We talked about how social media and innovation is all about connectivity. So can you describe a bit about your tribe, the values that they bring you and you bring to society?
Yeah, so my little community that I've got mainly started at the moment from when I was streaming on Twitch. I just thought at some point last year, I'll start streaming. It was something social to do while we're all locked inside. And I was going to just make music full time on there. But over time, it turned into me playing some games on there and just hanging out with a bunch of people who want to hang out with me. And it was fun to just meet loads and loads of new people and connect with them and just relax and have the social elements that I wouldn't otherwise have. So the people that I'm hanging out with help me unwind and relax, which then allows me to be creative, because I'm one of those people who struggles to be creative if I've got like a lot of pent up energy. It's a lot of fun to hang out with them, and then it allows me to be more creative when I need to be as well. So being around like-minded people is very important, and they're all very supportive.
My final question, if there was one innovative product that would make the world or the community better, that we think, or you think, that we should develop as a collectively, what do you think that should be in order to help us move forward?
The pandemic has changed the world, so we now need to just get a different perspective on things and see things in a different way and learn to engage with each other in new ways and safer ways, in the way that sort of thinks about the future of the world and makes it more sustainable, but also whilst being safe for everyone and being accessible for everyone, and just being a good way that we can all be social going forwards in the future in a safe way to protect the planet as well. And innovation will be a very important part of that.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Luke. That's been a real entertaining podcast. As a summary, I'd like to bring people back to the passion for creativity that Luke has demonstrated to us. They can liberate themselves by being themselves. They don't take themselves too seriously, don't crave those likes, and live in the real world as much as possible. We need to also be aware of the kind of negatives of social media and how people emotions are affected by music and by the number of views, and how they can do things that can be hurtful. But we've got to keep it real for ourselves. We need to also make sure that we understand that we keep talking to each other, because as we've mentioned, the worst thing you can do is shut yourself up. We need to make sure that we meet new people, learn new things, help us to unwind and relax and release that creativity, because the pandemic has shown us that we need to find new ways of engaging and communicating with each other in a safe manner, learn things, identify new innovations to help us on our long journey ahead. Well, thank you very much, Luke. Do you want to add anything else?
No, I think you've done a very good job there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
If you'd like to learn more, contact us on my website or LinkedIn. Search for Dr. Carl Phillips, Carl with a K and Phillips with 2 L's, and you'll find me. This podcast series was produced by Catherine Cunning and Mark Gardner at OX4 Sound Studios, Oxford, UK, with music by Mark Gardner.